Cyprus doesn't always make it into international news, but it has often caught the attention of our editor-in-chief, Mr. Gerald Flurry. And just as we are recording this program today, the military bases in Cyprus are being updated, but not by Cyprus alone, but through the financial aid and the military guidance and advice of foreign powers. This makes Cyprus prone to become once again the military staging ground of greater conflicts. The late Herbert W. Armstrong, editor-in-chief of The Plain Truth, predecessor of the Trumpet magazine, has warned about the hardened core of this conflict more than 40 years ago. A lot has happened since, and to bring us up to date, we are privileged to have a special guest on today's Trumpet World. Today we are joined by an international lawyer and general secretary of a new political party in Cyprus that was just formed a few years ago, the United Republican Party of Cyprus. Welcome, Nicolaos Komnenos.
Thank you for contacting me. Thank you very much. I am online with you.
Yes, just before we started recording, you sent me an email talking about military preparations in Cyprus right now, where people from America and from people that are stationed in Germany are coming to update some of the military facilities in Cyprus just as we are speaking. Maybe you can give us some updates about the announcement of the Cyprus government about that and anything else you may know about it.
Yes, today our political party sent an open letter to the president of Cyprus and to the major political parties, and we are protesting ongoing militarization of Cyprus. Yesterday, indeed, the government of Cyprus announced that a delegation from the US Army stationed in Germany is visiting Paphos Air Base in order to upgrade it. And this is something we call arms race, which is or warmongering, which is happening in Cyprus since, let's say, last year very actively. And the President Biden recently issued a memorandum to the US Senate and to the US Parliament, removing the embargo on supply of arms to Cyprus. So we point attention to the fact that in 1957, Dr. Kissinger was very clear about the need of Cyprus as a staging ground for upcoming nuclear or thermonuclear war. And he specifically mentioned, I quote, to rely on our ability to use air bases close to the combat zone. So what is going on now is the implementation of the worst scenario laid out by Dr. Kissinger in 1957 in his very famous book, Nuclear Weapons and Foreign Policy. And this book is recognized as one of the most influential books. So we call for referendum in Cyprus on the need of standing armies. Cyprus is a peaceful nation like Iceland. We don't need standing army. Yes, we need a strong police force, we need a coast guard, but we don't need a standing army. So this is the situation.
So there are actually quite a few foreign powers that see Cyprus as a strategic island for military operations.
Well, absolutely. In Cyprus, we have forces from the United Kingdom, United States, Greece, and Turkey. And in Cyprus, we don't have our own defense force. We relied on the National Guard of Greece, or National Guard of Cyprus, staffed by the generals from Greece. So, and we are talking about tens of thousands of active troops on active duties on this tiny island. One would wonder what they're doing there. It is on the record by the Parliament in the United Kingdom that the Akrotiri military base is equipped for accommodating nuclear warheads. I don't know how it is in compliance with the non-proliferation treaty, but as I say, the British armed forces are prepared to use nuclear weapons from Cyprus long ago, and it is on the record in the parliament. Now the United States is coming to Cyprus to upgrade their facilities. We have a huge Turkish army contingent based in the north of Cyprus. We are in the dark. We don't know what these troops are doing. And we are protesting against it. Cyprus, as I say, needs a referendum, and Cyprus needs to get rid of all armed forces, including from the United States, from UK, from Turkey, from Greece, or from elsewhere.
Okay, I have a few quotes here that I just want to add to what you just said here, because they're just recently from the president of Cyprus, and he said that Cyprus is an EU member state in a region of particular geostrategic importance. At another occasion, he said, foreigners see our geographic position as our key advantage. After a 5-day drill with other European Union member states, he added the following, that Cyprus is of particular geostrategic significance for the EU and others. So my question is, what makes Cyprus so significant for the European Union, but also for some of those other nations that you have mentioned?
Well, unfortunately, the only significant place in the area is Jerusalem. This is the holy place, and I'm not an expert in religion, but definitely it attracts attention of generations. The Crusaders, they didn't come to UK. The Crusaders came to Jerusalem. So I believe that I don't know exactly what our president meant, but my belief is that the importance of Cyprus is because of close proximity to Jerusalem and to the Middle East.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the closest island there, and it's just an hour flight. Another question I have here is for you: how did the European Union membership change Cyprus, change its independence? Has it become more dependent on the European Union, on Germany? What is your feeling on that?
Well, the prices in Cyprus, the cost of living, I think at least 2 times higher than before after joining the European Union. Why? Because we joined the European Union with overvalued Cyprus pound for internal political reasons. Cyprus economy is not competitive enough to compete with Germany, even with Spain. So it was a political decision to join European Union. And unfortunately, it brought devastation to the ordinary people who basically are suffering from the economic disaster which are facing now in Cyprus. And on top of that, we have warmongering under the excuse of stability, etc., geostrategic stability, etc., etc. So, yes, European Union is funding many good projects in Cyprus, museums, some roads, etc., etc. But the Cypriot people can manage on their own. They're very hardworking people, and this is a beautiful island with a lot of potential for tourism, for agriculture. Both tourism and agriculture is devastated and killed. There are no more tourism in Cyprus. There are no more agriculture in Cyprus. So we basically borrow money from European Union and definitely from Germany as the major power in Europe, and spend this money on weapons. This is a suicidal mission, unfortunately. That's why we are very vocal, we are against it, and thank you for drawing the attention of the world audience to this situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the European Union, it does offer some benefits, as you have stated, but often those benefits are just to lure people into the sway of an overarching government that your people can't really decide what those leaders want and what they do with your island, what they do with your country. So it's really often the case that you give up something for something that you can't control anymore, and that can be very dangerous. And you have drawn attention just earlier to the history of the Crusades. Now, that has been the feature of Cyprus for some centuries. Could you maybe elaborate on that history before? Because that's also something that our Trumpet editor-in-chief, Mr. Gerald Flurry, has often drawn attention to, that island has a history of becoming a battleground, like a staging ground, rather, for other military invasions into the Middle East.
Well, I'm not a historian myself, but definitely the Crusaders used Cyprus as the staging point for their missions in the Middle East and around Jerusalem. There were many crusading events. There were 4 crusades, and the fourth crusade was a devastation for Constantinople. And the relationship between Greek culture and Latin culture is controversial, to say it least, because the Fourth Crusade brought devastation to the Byzantine Empire, or East Roman Empire, as historians say. So the relationship between Europe and this part of the earth is complicated. And you are right that nobody is asking Cyprus population about major decisions. The joining of the European Union, the joining of Euro, was done without referendum. And even our constitution, which is a very special thing, I would like to tell you about it now, was adopted without a referendum. But this constitution of 1960 is unique. Why? Because if you open it, the second article proclaimed that there are only 2 communities in Cyprus: Orthodox Greeks and Muslim Turkish. So all other communities have to have a permission to stay in Cyprus. This is a very interesting constitution, and I think it was drafted in Switzerland, and it was very advanced legal document. Unfortunately, it is not implemented now, as because we are part of Europe, there is an influx of other communities to Cyprus. But under the Cyprus constitution, there is a balance. This is a place for peaceful coexistence of Greek Orthodox, of Christians, and Turkish Muslims. So we're supposed to live in peace as people who follow monotheistic religion, but the Cyprus is militarized since 60s, which led to a coup in 74, an invasion, and there were 2 invasions. Our political party believed that we have to listen to Archbishop Makarios, our first president, who said in the United Nations in 1974, on the 19th of July, that we had 2 invasions. The first invasion came from Greece, and the second invasion came from Turkey. Politicians now in Cyprus mostly deny this fact. So Cyprus was under military invasions from Greece and from Turkey since 60s, since 70s, and we have to remember that since actually 1953, when there were first riots in Nicosia. I will tell you a few interesting things for our listeners. Yes, some of them, they don't know what is Cyprus. But if you are good in astronomy, you can build axis of our Earth, and it starts in Jerusalem, goes through Nicosia, which is the capital of Cyprus, then Istanbul, then Budapest, and then to Canada. This is the center of our Earth. So Cyprus is geographically, historically, is very important place. But Cyprus is not for sale. It belongs to Christians and to Muslims, to the two communities which is under Article 2 are titled nations here. Like Germans are titled nations in Germany, like French are titled nation in France. That's the brief of the history.
I'm glad that you point out that fight over this island from different parts, like you said, from Greece and from Turkey. We actually have a clip here from the editor-in-chief of The Plain Truth, that's our predecessor magazine, who visited Cyprus on invitation of the acting president Georgios Ladas in the 1980s, and he talked about that part of the conflict, which was very much on the mind of the people of Cyprus at the time, and even caught the world's attention. So if we could play that clip right now, we will listen to that together.
In a visit in Nicosia, Cyprus, to the acting president of that nation, Cyprus, Mr. George Ladas, he was astonished when he heard this same message.
It was very kind of you to come and see me.
Well, thank you very much.
Will you please sit down?
I see you've been having your troubles here.
Yes.
We're having them all over the world.
Yes. We have, unfortunately, in many parts of the world nowadays, there is trouble.
Can we see that this whole thing goes back hundreds and thousands of years, and it all gets back to the roots of civilization? It started out on a basis of, I call get. I like to say there are two broad philosophies of life, or ways of life. One is give and one is get. Or one is cooperation, or it could be expressed in love. But humanity started out rejecting that way and took the way of self-centeredness, vanity, greed, lust, competition, whereas the other way would be the way of cooperation, helping, sharing, mutual concern for the good of each other. As it is, it's only concern for self.
Yeah, that was Herbert W. Armstrong speaking to the acting president of Cyprus in the 1980s, and it seems like that conflict is still very much on everyone's mind in Cyprus today, isn't it?
Well, this is very idealistic view, but definitely Cyprus is in the center of the clash of civilizations, which we are witnessing now. We have a very powerful Greek civilization, which goes back to the Platon. We lost the bridge between modernity through Byzantine and Greek culture now. So the Greeks are in refuge. They were trying, with the help of Capodistria, to establish independent state, independent Republic of Greece, after the Napoleonic Wars. And they're still struggling, both in Greece and in Cyprus. So Greeks are a very peaceful nation, actually, and they admire the peaceful life. So that's why I totally agree with the statement that we need more love. And Cyprus is the place of Aphrodite, which is the goddess of love, actually. We don't need weapons, shoes in Cyprus. We don't need rockets. We don't need air shields. Cyprus should be an excellent example of peaceful coexistence between Christians and Muslims, as envisaged by the Cyprus constitution.
Another thing that caught my attention along some same lines, that Cyprus right now is trying to get involved in different kinds of conflicts. Just this past December, on December 23rd, the president of Cyprus appointed a special representative for religious freedom in the Middle East. And he said that that would assist the European Union's effort to support religious groups in the region. Now, Cyprus is a predominantly Christian country. How much does religion play a role on the island today?
Well, Cyprus is absolutely a religious country. Back in the day, the Cyprus church was responsible for education of the citizens. The Archbishop of Cyprus is the second person in the governmental rank. I'm happy to say that my position in the governmental rank is 12, according to the Cyprus law, as the representative of a political party. So yes, religion is playing a critical part in the Cyprus society. Whether the decision was a surprise by the president to appoint an ambassador in Syria. And this is not the first surprise, it is the second surprise. The first surprise came in early 2024 when Vatican opened an embassy in Cyprus. So definitely bigger religious powers are coming to Cyprus, and the general public is not basically now aware of the reasons of Vatican coming to Cyprus in 2024 and not 30 years before. And the general public is not aware about the need to have a religious ambassador in Syria.
Right.
So you have to invite a representative of Cyprus government to answer your questions about why they're doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And when I read some of the statements about the Vatican, the new embassy there, they always relate that Cyprus played a historic role for them. But right now, the Roman Catholic Church has like less than 5% of a membership in Cyprus, but they're still seeing Cyprus as a key staging ground for them to be more involved in the Middle East, to strengthen the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle East. Another question related to that somewhat is, and you have alluded to that earlier as well already, Cyprus has become a member of the European Union and has also become like financially tied to the European Union and Germany. Do you think that financial ties, the dependence financially on the European Union, may play a role in Cyprus being levied into that direction as it is?
Well, politics is a money game. It's not a secret. So the flow of money is not visible, but definitely there is a bigger chunk of money coming to Cyprus from Germany. Actually, some EPP, there was recently, this is a political party or a movement in Europe, European People's Party. And the president of Cyprus was attending such a gathering in Germany. So definitely there is a flow of money into Cyprus, and the power, the political power comes with money. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this information is not public, and we don't know who pays for what. But definitely, this has to be investigated. It has to be investigated. What is Cyprus went bankrupt in 2013, and it is a known fact that the European Union or Troika bailed out Cyprus in brackets because major bank was closed and citizens lost maybe 10 billion euro of their savings. But since 2013, Europe is having a leverage over affairs in Cyprus. And I would, although our government is saying that our financials are sound and we are very much in the investment grade rating by major investment grade agencies, my personal opinion and gut feeling is that Cyprus is still bankrupt because there is no production in Cyprus. The GDP of Cyprus, I believe, is the growth of the Cyprus GDP is because of the inflation of the property prices and probably by some trades. So unlike Germany, which is or used to be a huge and still is a major producer of wealth in Europe, Cyprus is no longer producing anything. So we are only borrowing. Cyprus government depends on the borrowing from European Union. This is our opinion. And with money comes power. You are right.
Yeah, that's quite sad to hear how financial things can use like that. You get a country into debt, you get a country dependent on debt, you get a country dependent on financial flow from a different country, and that country obviously has to do what you want to say. And our editor-in-chief in 2013 has actually written an article about that where he warned that Germany is not doing that altruistically. They are not doing that because they want to help the people in Cyprus. Much more, this crisis is engineered to get control. So it's interesting to see that you see something is similar along those lines.
I will tell you more. I will tell you that our political party is very known for return of national currency of Cyprus pound. Why? Because if you don't have a national currency, you have a foreign currency, and foreign political influence comes with this currency. Because nobody knows who is investing or who is sending euros to Cyprus. And I'm calling for Germany to introduce German mark, because I'm sure that Germany may find itself in the same situation as Cyprus, as when there are no capital controls, you don't know who is sending euros to Germany and who is sending euros out of Germany. So we are calling for national currencies and Cyprus pound, and we're calling for capital controls. So we know that this is a genuine investment or a corrupted type of money in order to exert an influence, a political influence on our land.
Yeah, and that I think ties in what we have discussed with the military parts too, because once you have the financial control and then you have a military control over an island, then you have the control over what they can spend and who can defend themselves. And that's really not what an independent country would want. The military control in another nation's hands and financial control in another nation's hands. Just because Donald Trump was inaugurated president just a few days ago, do you have any thoughts on how he might change? You mentioned earlier that Biden in his last days just allowed Cyprus to buy weapons from the United States directly from the government, as I understand. So do you have any expectations on how Donald Trump may change things up in the region?
Well, we are just a political party. We are not yet in the parliament, we are not yet in the government, although our president was a candidate for Cyprus presidential elections, and also she was number one on the primaries, on the parliamentary primaries in 2021. We don't have access to intelligence, to the political intelligence. So I can definitely speculate on my personal vision what will be changing, but it is evident that the situation in Syria changed dramatically upon the election of Trump. So definitely the lift of embargo on supply of arms to Cyprus and the visit of the US Army personnel from Germany to Cyprus is very close in time. So my personal opinion is that we don't expect changes in a peaceful direction very soon, no matter who is the president of the United States. So we expect what we see, and we see escalation.
Yeah, it definitely builds toward that, and the conflicts are getting worse and worse in the Middle East. So Cyprus, unless that changes, these powers try to pull Cyprus into it in many ways.
I would like to add that according to public information, one of the executive decree which President Trump signed was a supply of 2,000 pounds bombs to the Israeli army. And it is not a secret that Cyprus is a transit point of these highly sophisticated and devastating weapons. So we appeal to Cyprus population to stand up and wake up to the reality. We don't want to be a combat zone of foreign powers, as you rightfully pointed out. We don't want that.
Okay, just for a final question, you contacted us as in response to an article you read on the Vatican using Cyprus as a gateway into Jerusalem. Would you maybe just like to share your reaction to that initial contact that you had with us upon reading that article, or any comments you may have on elaborating on that article?
Well, I have seen a few articles from your side on militarization of Cyprus. My initial impression was it is a type of warmongering, but subsequently I was convinced by your editors that you are calling for peace. Vatican, they have a huge embassy in Lebanon for dozens of years, of centuries, I don't know. Why they're coming to Cyprus, I don't know. As I say, Jerusalem is geographically, historically, religiously, is a very critical place, very sensitive place. And my opinion is that this area must be demilitarized to keep its religious importance. We don't need the Middle East to be a trigger for the nuclear war. But definitely such scenarios are not only on paper from Kissinger from 1957, they are unfolding in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that something sinister is being worked out here, and Cyprus is right in the middle of it. Now you have a political party, and some people in Cyprus that might be watching that might want to reach out to you to thank you for what you're doing, or else do you have any way that they could contact you, or any other thing you want to point them to?
Well, we have a website, and people can search us on Google, and they can contact me directly through the website, through the chat button, and they can enroll to our political party, because this is the way forward. We have elections, we have parliamentary elections very soon, and then we have presidential elections, and we will participate in all of these elections. So we need to take control of the power. If you like, our president is like a Trump in the United States. We have Trump in Cyprus. This is Josué Komnenos, who was a candidate of the Cyprus presidential elections in 2023. Of course, people were blinded. They didn't know about us because we are new, but we will protect people of Cyprus, and we will ensure that peace will come to this area.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
For centuries, Cyprus has drawn the attention of world powers and has been at the heart of major conflicts. Centuries later, we still don't have peace in this world, and once again, Cyprus is being fortified in the midst of a larger conflict in the Middle East. Why are world powers drawn to Cyprus? Why is Germany particularly interested in this small island? Trump editor-in-chief Mr. Gerald Flurry has written an article, Why Germany Conquered Cyprus, to explain these questions. He wrote the following. Set in the midst of the Mediterranean Sea, near the heart of the world is strategic Cyprus. Look at a map, and you can see it as a stepping stone between Europe and the Middle East. It is near Jerusalem. It is near Rome. It is near Berlin. Understand its proximity to these important cities and to strategic areas, and you begin to understand why Cyprus has played such a crucial role in history. The Bible warns that unless something dramatic changes, our world will once again be engulfed in conflict, and Cyprus will once again be at the heart of it. Here's what Mr. Gerald Flurry warned in a related Key of David program.
Cyprus is going to be, we believe, play a very significant role in the near future, and is really going to be probably the little island from which World War III will be triggered. Now, that is according to Bible prophecies. That might seem strange, but then on the other hand, there have been several crusades launched from the little island of Cyprus. And why is this little island so important to Germany, a nation who has started 2 world wars and now have Cyprus in absolute bondage to their country? How did that happen? After Germany was so completely destroyed after World War II, how have they regained such power in Europe today?
But the Bible's message is not one of gloom and doom. Much rather, it shows the problems that we are facing, and it gives the solutions that we so desperately need. To learn more about this crucial subject, read Mr. Flurry's article, Why Germany Conquered Cyprus, on our website, thetrumpet.com. Thank you for joining us today on Trumpet the World. Tune in again on Friday for the next live show. Thanks to engineering and production to George Haddad. If you want to write any comments, positive or negative, write them to letters@thetrumpet.com. Until next time, keep watching your world.